Hi, I'm Tony Van Veen, CEO of Discmakers. Something very interesting has been quietly happening in the vinyl market over the past 6 to 9 months. Interestingly, I haven't seen any mentions of it in the press or on social media, so I want to let you know what I'm seeing. And it's this. Vinyl record sales may have peaked mid-last year, and we might start to see vinyl sales declines going forward. Let me start by offering a bit of background. You see, vinyl sales are the most improbable business story of the past decade, in my opinion. Here we are in the age of digital music streaming, and the fastest growing, hippest, hottest music format is a bulky, fragile, impractical, expensive analog format that was first introduced way back in 1949, over 70 years ago. As you can see in this chart from Statista, vinyl grew improbably by about 30% a year on average for over a decade now, and last year 43.5 million LPs were sold in the US. That's more vinyl LP sales than CD sales. And again, pretty crazy for a technology format that had been almost completely wiped out 25 years ago. What everyone sees right now, however, is that growth is slowing down. Billboard wrote a recent headline about 2022 vinyl sales titled, "US album sales rise for 17th straight year, but growth is slowing." Just look at this bar chart representing data from the RIAA's 2022 annual report. You can see the slowdown in unit growth from 40 million to 41.3 million units year over year. That's about a 3.2% growth rate for the year, much slower than the historical growth rate in the first chart I showed you. Yes, but it's still growth, Tony. I can feel you thinking. But here's the kicker. If we break the year into two halves, you can see that in the first half of the year, the blue parts of the bar chart, vinyl units grew 16% from 18.8 million in 2021 to 21.8 million in the first half of 22. But check out the second half of the year. In the second half of 2021, 21.2 million units of vinyl were sold. In the second half of 22, the units sold were just 19.5 million, or 8% lower than a year earlier. And it's not just the year-over-year numbers that are lower. If you compare the second half of 2021 to the first half of 2021, you see that units grew almost 13%, from 18.8 to 21.2 million units. This is the natural industry seasonality, where the second half of the year, which includes the holidays, is always bigger than the first half. But if you compare 2022, second half units sold of 19.5 million were in fact almost 11% lower than the 21.8 million units in the first half of the year. That never happens in physical sales. So what does this mean? Is the vinyl party over, and are we just looking at sales declines from here on out? Nobody knows. But there are a number of factors that might indicate it's just a short-term blip. For example, number one, there's been a huge decade-long shortage in vinyl capacity. 2021 hit peak craziness. Many vinyl order times in 21 were taking between 6 and 12 months to get pressed. I mean, crazy. And so that led to labels over-ordering copies of many of their titles, since A, they were not able to accurately forecast demand almost a year out, and B, they did not want to run out of product because a reorder would take another 6 to 12 months. And then number two, those big shipments filled up distributor and Amazon warehouses and retail store stock rooms. With so much product on racks, retailers were very conservative in their ordering for their second half of 2022. So it could just be that this is a short-term disruption caused by the supply chain snags from last year, or really from 2021. In the past year to 18 months, lots of vinyl presses have been installed, and turn times for record pressing have come way down by at least half of what it was. So maybe this was just a short-term reaction to over-ordering in full warehouses, and growth will resume in 2023. But it could be that a longer-term downward trend has started for vinyl. I mean, the resurrection of vinyl was always such an improbable growth story. At some point, it had to hit its natural ceiling. Did that happen in mid-2022? I don't know, but it's kind of interesting that one vinyl plant told me that there hasn't been a big rush for pressings for Record Store Day this spring. Now, if you ask me if we hit peak vinyl, my guess is not quite yet. It's unlikely that the market would swing as quickly from growth to decline as it did in 2022, with the first half of the year being up 16% and the second half way down by 8%. That swing was likely caused by a short-term supply and demand imbalance. But I do believe that we are going to see much slower growth going forward. All the big titles from years past have already been issued on vinyl again. If you look at the list of releases for Record Store Day this year, which you can do at recordstoreday.com, there's lots of interesting stuff, but it's all pretty niche and specialty pressings and nothing that looks like a big hit. And of course, one driver in growth of the format is whether the big labels are dropping any blockbuster titles. For example, if, hypothetically, Rihanna's much anticipated new album comes out on vinyl and it's a monster, that title alone can drive format growth. So, what's next? In the short term, buckle your seatbelt. It could be bumpy. If retailers have excess stock, they'll start making large returns to distributors, who will make large returns to the labels. This could put a financial strain on labels, particularly indies, who were hoping to get paid for those records that they pressed, and who now have to instead give credit to the distributor. In the long run, more modest growth and a better balance between vinyl pressing capacity and demand may be just what the market needs. This will moderate vinyl costs, which will lower some of the price inflation for vinyl we've seen at retail. That's good for music fans who will be able to buy more vinyl, which ultimately is good for artists. You can be sure that I'll keep an eye on it, and I'll let you know if anything interesting develops. In the meantime, if you're interested in more information about getting your music pressed on vinyl, you should download our Musician's Guide to Vinyl. We'll drop a download link in the description of this video. Hope you download it. Thanks for watching. See you next time.